Salve GBA fans, it's Xilicks here, and welcome back to more of the Fantasy League. This is going to be one of the final episodes of Fantasy, for this season at least, because this is going to be week 12, which is the final week for playing, and then next week is going to be a recap of week 12, and also the season recap for Fantasy, where you guys will be able to see all of your scores. We might try to do something where we add up the Pokemon scores, although that hasn't been done yet. However, player scores is ready. So that'll be ready next week, so make sure you check back next week for that. But yeah, let's get into the recap of week 11 and then all of the other stuff as usual. Starting off our last week recap, we have our top player being Forza, scoring 39 points, which was pretty good for this week, as I believe I scored 17 points from week 11, so 39 is definitely a very solid score. Moving on to the All-Star, we actually have a tie. This is the first time that we've ever had a tie for the All-Star. There have been a couple weeks where it's been pretty close, but this is the first time where they've actually tied. They're both offensive, and it was Salmons and Heatran both scoring 21 points. I believe they both had 5 kills in their respective matches. Next up, we have Tom, who was our coach of the week from week 11, coach of the San Jose Sharpedos, scoring that 5-0 victory. Moving over to the official Season 7 fan document, ran by Dallas Staryu. If you'd like to see this page for yourself, go to the fan document and click on the week 11 tab, and then over on the right you can find the fantasy stuff. Over here we can see our coach of the week being Tom and the Sharpedos, getting 8 points. We can see our all-stars being Heatran and Salmons, both scoring 21 points, so if you picked it as an all-star you would receive 26. We can see my pick 6, where, as I mentioned before, I only got 17 points this week, so I believe quite a few of you did beat me. It wasn't a high scoring week for me, but you know, can't win them all. So looking over at our offensive and defensive ranking, as you can see, we had the tie between Heatran and Salmons with 21. Mimikyu and Terrakion both also tied with 13 in the next slot. Then moving over to the defensive rankings, we actually have a 3-way tie with Latios, Hippowdon, and Xilicks all scoring 8 points, and then even after that we have a couple mons with 7, being Shaman, Bronzong, Araquanid, and Ferrothorn. So I'm going to quickly scroll through before we move on so you guys can see how well all of the different mons did this week. Alright, moving right along to the fantasy sheet, you can find this linked below in the description. If you head over to the week 11 player standings, you'll be able to find how well you did. Just use the command Control F and type in your username to find where you're at, and then once you get there, scroll over to the right to see your total points. As we can see, our top player this week had 39 points. Heading on over to the U-Pick 6, this is most likely going to be the last U-Pick 6 of this season. One thing I want to mention before we get started is if you would like to play this week, make sure to fill out the form down below in the description. And also, this week is a mirror of the matches from week 5, so if there were certain mons that did well week 5 and you want to pick them again, feel free to do so. Also, these are just my picks. They don't have to be yours. If you'd like to copy some of them or use it as a guideline, feel free to do so. My first offensive pick is going to be Kyurem Black from the Philadelphia Scizors. They go up against A-Drive and the St. Louis Rampardos, and comparing to week 5, Kyurem did very well. Not amazingly, but it was one of the higher offensive mons. Week 5 was a little bit of a lower offensive week, as I believe Tapu Fini was like the highest offensive mon that week. So it wasn't a crazy offensive week, but basing off of that, I did like Kyurem, and I do like picking it again, as there isn't much on the Rampardos team that is going to take well to a Kyurem. Next up, I have Heatran, one of the All-Stars from last week. I'm picking it this week just because I like Heatran. I haven't picked it as an offensive mon this season yet. I think it'll do well this week, as I believe it did do pretty well in the previous matchup. But yeah, just looking at the matchup, I like Heatran. It puts in quite a lot of specially offensive work, and we've seen it do very well in the past, if last week was not enough to show for that. Next up, I have Kingdra, and right below it I have Tyranitar. They are in the same matchup this week, and the reason why I'm picking them both is because I'm hoping for a little bit of Weather Wars, and I want to have both of them just in case one pulls ahead of the other. I want to make sure that I have both of them picked, so that way I can get those points, as I imagine they will both be brought this week, and if they aren't, it's whatever. I imagine at least one of them will be though, and hopefully they can put in the work needed. Then moving into the rest of my defensive picks, I have 2 regenerator mons, the first being Slowbro. We've seen Slowbro do amazingly as a defensive mon. It takes super effective hits, it switches out, gets that regenerator, goes for slack off, sets up status. It's just a great defensive pick, as well as Amoonguss for the same reasons. It can take super effective hits, it can regenerate off that damage, it can set certain statuses. It's good for utility, and even with its typing, I believe that it may be able to put up some offensive pressure this week as well, which is always an amazing thing for a defensive mon, as while they don't get the points for knocking out mons, it's definitely in their favor to be putting on that type of pressure. Alright, so that is going to wrap things up for this episode. Make sure to check out all the links down below in the description to stay tuned with the community and all that stuff, and fill out the form if you'd like to play for this week. Keep in mind this is the last week, so make sure you participate in that because you don't want to miss out, especially there are quite a few people that are currently near the top of the player rankings, so you don't want to miss out on 1 week because that can definitely make it or break it. I'll see you guys next time. My name is Xilicks. Okay, thanks, bye.